somebody who was charged here in Travis County with a felony THC offense, and he's going to come up here and talk to us about what his experience in the court system was. And obviously, marijuana and THC other than marijuana, hash and other things, are still illegal in Texas. But even that, I think, is, I hope that his story will be a little bit of hope and looking forward to where society is. It's not just us in this room anymore. We are the super majority. Our position that the responsible use of marijuana by adults should be fully legal in Texas is actually the position of most Texans, and that even includes a great deal of police officers, prosecutors, and judges, and Stephen's going to tell us a little bit about his experience about that. All right. So I do want to talk a little bit about, as I say, the history of where we've been and where we're going. Let's just put it on the table. Tons of people were rightfully disappointed at the end of this legislative session because something magical and beautiful happened in the middle of the legislative session that had never happened before, and then it kind of fizzled out, okay? And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the medical marijuana bill, the coalition, which is MPP and Texas NORML and MAMA and many other Texas organizations working to legalize marijuana, did a masterful job of getting witnesses lined up for that hearing. Patients, doctors, a district court judge from my hometown, Bryan College Station. Anybody know Bryan College Station's reputation, by the way? For those of y'all that know Wilco, it is not far off from Wilco. Well, there was a district court judge, a former district court judge. He'd been a judge for about 30 years. That means he was a felony judge, by the way, that came and testified in favor of the medical marijuana bill based on him knowing a woman whose child very much needed this as medicine. It was the only thing that helped the child in any way, shape, or form. And something that doesn't actually happen a ton at these hearings is that the legislators, not just at that hearing, but the full body, really ended up listening. This is the magical part of the 2017 legislative session. The medical marijuana bill had 5 authors and co-sponsors going into that hearing, and within 24 to 36 hours after that hearing, it had 77, 78 co-sponsors and authors. And for those that don't know, there are only 150 representatives, which means you only need 76 to actually pass something. So if you have at least that many people signing on as co-authors and sponsors, that's a pretty good hint that they're going to vote for it if it actually gets to the House floor. Now, of course, the disappointing thing is that I'm going to give you my personal opinion. I do not believe that this was some sort of an anti-marijuana conspiracy against us. Some of y'all that have paid attention to Texas politics for a long time may sort of remember the phrase, the most dangerous 140 days in Texas, or when the Texas legislature is in session. And there is a sentiment in Texas that if the legislature does nothing, then that's good, and if they do something, that's automatically bad. And that doesn't have anything to do with marijuana reform. That's just Texas's overall opinion of their legislators, and given the laws that they pass, I'm not sure I completely disagree with that. But what I'm talking about is there is an intentional slowdown at the end of a session, not necessarily aimed at marijuana reform bills, but just aimed at all bills so that they don't actually get voted out of what's called the Calendars Committee to be scheduled for an actual full vote on the House, so that the members don't have to make difficult political decisions. So, of course, the medical marijuana bill was not actually passed this session, but to go from almost no support to more than half of the House of Representatives supporting this bill was an amazing thing that I believe was the intellectual tipping point in our movement here in Texas. We're not going to be able to take that back. Incumbents get reelected at well over 90% rates. Most of those legislators will be there next session, and it will be even more politically feasible for them to, for the new ones, to support true marijuana reform the next time the legislature is in session. So I thought that it was truly a groundbreaking session for us. All right, so let me bring up our first speaker. He'll tell you what district it is, I'm sure. I should know, but his name is Chris Perry. I've known him for probably more than 10 years. He is a local criminal defense attorney. He is running against Lamar Smith, and I originally had pulled up on my iPhone a statement from Lamar Smith. Lamar Smith did not agree to come talk to us tonight, but for some reason, my iPhone in my pocket has changed to the Texas Association of Orthodontists. So I'll just tell you that this isn't a verbatim quote, but basically Lamar Smith quotes the old lines about marijuana, that it is illegal because it is dangerous, because it is addictive, because it is a gateway drug. All of the lies that we've heard from gutless politicians for a long time. Chris Perry wants to be the person to challenge Lamar Smith. I'm really pleased that he's here to talk to us tonight. Please give a warm hand to my friend Chris Perry.
Good evening, everyone. How are y'all doing tonight? Great. Can everybody hear me? Awesome. My name is Chris Perry. That's Perry with an I. That part's really important because it means I'm not related to Rick. I'm running for Congress, U.S. Congress, in District 21. District 21, we're in District 21 right now, actually. It's all of downtown Austin. It's all of West Campus. It's all of South Austin. It goes into San Antonio. It goes all the way out in the hill country with Kerrville, Fredericksburg. Lots of areas, but it is a very winnable district. I was telling some people tonight, the New York Times came out the other day saying that there's 70 districts they identified that could possibly flip from Republican to Democrat in the next election, and for the first time ever, District 21 was on there. So it has never been more possible to get a tired, old-school politician like Lamar Smith out, a guy who says, get your news directly from President Trump, don't listen to the media. That's who we're talking about. We're talking about somebody that's been there 30 years. So let me tell you a little about me, and then I want to tell you about how I'm going to make change and how I'm going to try to legalize marijuana at the federal level and why I want to do that, and why I think that message will resonate and be something that is electable and something that I'm going to campaign on and not shy away from. So I'm a criminal defense attorney. As Jamie mentioned, I work with Jamie. I see him a lot at the courthouse. I earned my law degree from UT in 2005. And then I actually got my economics, my master's in economics after that. So when I talk about marijuana, I'm going to be using some economics with that too to lend credibility, because there are some great economic arguments for legalization. So after that, I started my own law practice, practicing criminal defense, and I've basically been fighting for freedom, justice, and equality my entire life, or my entire career, for over a decade. My ethic, just as Jamie's ethic is to zealously defend each and every one of your clients. And the reason I jumped into this race is because I want to represent all of you. I want to bring that same ethic of zealous representation so that your interests are represented, not the interests of wealthy and corporate donors. The actual people dictate our politics. Your representative, or our representative, I guess we have to say, here in this district, Lamar Smith, He's not just bad on marijuana, he also denies climate change, despite being the head of the House Science Committee. He cheered when Donald Trump withdrew us from the Paris Climate Agreement. He's the same guy that passed that awful health bill that's going to deprive 23 million Americans of health coverage over the next decade. And he says that marijuana is a drug prone to abuse, has no medical use, and is a gateway drug, all of which are lies. So why is it that people like Lamar Smith and his Republican cohorts are so out of touch? Why are they willing to pass these laws that don't reflect the will of the people? And what I figured out is they would rather represent the interests of their wealthiest donors and the corporate monopolies that give them money than they would represent you, the actual voter. These same corporate monopolies are the ones that are basically those pharmaceutical companies like Turing that took away AIDS patients' ability to access a vital drug for their survival, bringing it up 56-fold so that their CEO had to go on trial. Those same pharmaceutical companies have put these politicians in their pocket to oppose legalizing marijuana. Why? Because if you legalize marijuana, they don't make as much money off of their pain drugs, off of many drugs that treat glaucoma, things that really help people with nausea when they're on cancer. I read that if marijuana were legal in this country, we would save over $1 billion on Medicaid dollars. Over $1 billion. For a government that wants to defund Medicaid, that should be attractive to them. They should want to legalize marijuana if it's going to save that type of money. So let's talk about marijuana. Let's talk about why we're here tonight. On the federal controlled substances schedule, can you believe that marijuana is grouped in the same category as methamphetamine and heroin? It is considered more dangerous than cocaine. It's on Schedule 1. And that just shows how out of touch our federal laws are. And people are going to prison, federal prison, for growing marijuana when a U.S. attorney takes cases like that. And Jeff Sessions is sending fear down the spines of states that live legalized and have had well-functioning markets, like Colorado. For a Republican Party that wants states' rights and talks about states' rights all the time with respect to things like abortion, it is so hypocritical to threaten states that Jeff Sessions might send the DEA in there and break up those legal, functioning, progressive marijuana markets. If we were to legalize marijuana, there is a huge economic boom to it. I read the other day that 55 million people smoke marijuana in this country. That's just 3 million regularly, and not just smoke it, regularly use it. Adult responsible use. That's 3 million less than the number of people that smoke cigarettes. So why in the world would the federal government let a gold mine of potential tax regulation go to the wayside? They're missing out on billions of dollars that could be used for progressive platforms like what I want to bring is free higher education for everyone, whether it be four-year college or vocational schools, career-ready schooling. We want to invest in our future, and the big complaint I hear when I say I want to invest in education is there's not enough money. Well, you could get at least a minimum of $28 billion from a well-regulated marijuana market, and I think that's low because after the Colorado example and the recent states that have legalized, they're already estimating that by 2020 it's $20 billion. So if we had the possibility of marijuana being legal across the country, I think it's more like double, like 50 or 60 billion from a well-regulated marijuana market. Could have the ATF regulate it, maybe make them the ATFM, I don't know, something like that. But that would seem to be a very good way of raising money. Also, I've already mentioned the medical angle, but let's remember, it's not just an economic thing. It's a humane policy to make marijuana legal. Now, when I also say that marijuana needs to be legal on the federal level, it doesn't mean that it'll automatically be legal in Texas. But the fact is the federal government sets the standard and states often follow. So if the federal government were to say that we no longer think that marijuana should be illegal, that we are going to legalize it, you would get a lot more support across the country for legalization, and all of the states would start falling in line, and you would get people like at Texas NORML's efforts would just have so much more power and impact behind them. And then the other final aspect I want to talk about that also makes so much economic sense is the industrial hemp industry. Industrial hemp is an environmentally sustainable product. Why in the world are we not using it and subsidizing small businesses to go in and set up industrial hemp farms? They would be a replacement for non-organic cottons, for plastics, for cement, which is horrible, has a greenhouse effect. In an age where we need to get to 100% renewables to save our planet for the future generations, industrial hemp just makes sense. So for all these reasons, I am a 100% proponent of legalizing marijuana at the federal level. I won't hide hide about it during my campaign. I will talk about it in these terms, in the open. It is on my website that I want to legalize it. I'm a criminal defense attorney, so it's part of my identity, part of my core value. And I really would want y'all's vote if you're in the district. If you're not in the district, please spread the word. I have a bunch of cards here today. You could go to my website, sign up for updates. Follow me on Facebook. You'll get to see a really fun InfoWars ambush of me where I turn the tables on them. So there's some fun stuff to see on Facebook if you do that. But I just want to let you know that I am here to fight for you, and I will be fighting for the future throughout this campaign and if elected to Congress. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Chris Perry. Perry with an I, not a Y. All right. So next up is our dearly departed. No, that's not right. Our former leader, Josh Shimberg, is here to talk to us about where we've been in the past and maybe a little bit of what he sees for us in the future. Please give another warm welcome to someone who is no stranger to this stage, our former executive director of Texas NORML, Josh Shimberg. Super happy to have him here tonight.
How's everybody doing tonight? The last time I was up here was in 2013, and that was after serving as executive director of Texas NORML from 2005 to 2013. Jamie wanted me to come up and talk to everybody about the progress that's been made because he said, and I know that it's a fact, that there's a lot of people that are really disappointed about what happened with the medical marijuana bill as well as the decrim bill in the legislative session this year. And part of what I wanted to do is explain to everybody that's here tonight that what happened this session is not something to be disappointed about at all. It's something to be excited about, and I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that I am super excited about what happened with these bills in the legislative session this year. Because let me tell you what happened when I first got involved with Texas NORML. Back in 2003, when I first moved to Austin, I didn't even really know that much about NORML or Texas NORML or anything about the legalization movement. All that I knew about it was what I had read in High Times magazine and the sparse mentions that they gave to NORML at the time. But after moving to Austin, we happened to run into Texas NORML at the Austin Reggae Festival in 2004, and I immediately latched on to these people because it was something that I really felt strongly about as a marijuana consumer. And I knew that there was no reason that I should be in jeopardy of losing my freedoms, getting sent to jail, losing my job, losing my driving rights, just because I wanted to consume cannabis as an adult. So I started going to the Texas NORML meetings at that time, and let me tell you what the Texas NORML meetings were like back in 2004. They were held at Opal Divines on 6th Street, which is now closed, if anybody recognizes that place. I know Dave does. And they had monthly meetings at Opal Divines, and there was probably an average of about 5 to 8 people at each meeting at the Texas Normal meeting when I first got involved. 5 to 8 total. At that time, Texas Normal had 0 members, none. There was no such thing as a membership form. There was no way to sign up as a member. All you could do was show up to the meeting and show your support in person. Well, after going to several meetings for Texas Normal over many months, there came a point that the people that were running Texas Normal, who were both doing graduate programs at UT, no longer had the time or ability to work with Texas Normal anymore. So they came to a meeting one day with all of this paperwork and all this information, and they said, Josh, you've been coming to every meeting for almost a year now, and you seem like you really want to do this, and we really can't do it anymore, so we need somebody to be able to take over and do this. And we think you're the perfect person for it. And I looked at him and I said, well, isn't there anybody else? And we look around the room and there's like 5 other people there. No, there's nobody else that's going to do it. And if we can't do it, then it's probably not going to continue on as an organization. So I told them, sure, I'll go ahead and I'll take it. I took the paperwork. I told them I would take care of everything. And the first thing I did, because I could recognize this at the beginning, was Texas Normal and the cause of legalization is not going to advance one step forward unless there are more people involved in it and more people who are willing to work for it. It's just not going to happen. And in all of those years since I got involved, I've seen Texas Normal increase in size. We started getting members. The Austin Reggae Festival, which Angela is so deeply involved in, and now she's so deeply involved in hosting Texas Normal meetings here for many years, we would never have been able to grow to the size we are today and do the things that we've done today if it wasn't for getting the people involved on the ground level. Each and every one of you that comes to the meetings is a step forward in getting progress. And as far as the legislative session is concerned, back in 2004, 2005, 2007, if you want to talk about disappointment, let me tell you what disappointment sounds like. It sounds like having a decriminalization bill that doesn't even get a hearing in the committee. It sounds like having a medical marijuana bill where you have patients who are desperately in need with serious medical conditions coming to the Capitol and pleading with legislators to pass a medical marijuana bill, and that medical marijuana bill not even getting a hearing. And those things happened back in 2009 and 2007 in those year time frames. And it was very disappointing. It was extremely disappointing. But I knew at the time, with the amount of growth that we were having, the fact that we were getting actual members, actual donors, we were getting people involved with the board of directors, I knew for a fact that we'd be able to advance these bills in the legislature in coming legislative sessions. And that is the whole point of getting people involved at the grassroots level. Because especially in Texas, if you don't have people involved politically at the grassroots level, you're not going to advance any bills, because I'm sure, as many of you know, we can't do a statewide ballot initiative. We can't gather up donations and get signatures to get a marijuana decrim or a medical marijuana bill on the ballot statewide. It's not possible. So the only way we have to work is through the legislators. And just like Chris Perry coming up running, although he is running for a U.S. House, the point of the matter is we need people involved on the ground politically and going to the state capitol every year, not even in legislative years, every year. When you get a chance to talk to your legislator, you need to go talk to them, and you need to talk to them about why medical marijuana and marijuana decriminalization is important for the state of Texas and for the citizens of Texas. Because all it's doing is holding back our economy. It's holding back our law enforcement from focusing on real crimes. It's holding back a whole plethora of things that we could be making progress on if only the state would be willing to get these bills through committee, through the House and through the Senate and to the governor's desk. Now, I know it's been a long time since I've been here, and I've had a lot of things going on, personal, family life, but I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, the people that have been running Texas Normal for the past several years are the best people that have been working for Texas Normal probably since Bill Norton formed Texas Normal. There is no way that if I would have stayed on after 2013 that I would have been able to keep up the pace, the energy, and everything that goes with getting these things done at the Capitol. We started the legislative lobby days many years ago, and when we first started those lobby days, it was basically a few people meeting at a bookstore, learning about the legislative process, and then trying to get a handful of people, if possible, to go to the Capitol and talk to legislators about it. I know during the last lobby day that Texas Normal hosted, there was, over 300 people at that lobby day? Over 300 people from across the state came to lobby legislators directly in their offices about these bills. And that makes a difference. And just the sheer fact that there was dozens and dozens of legislators on a bipartisan measure that signed off as co-authors on the medical marijuana bill and on the decrim bill, that there has been huge strides made in this fight to get marijuana for medical use and decriminalized, and in the end, for legalization, as we want it. And we all know that that's what Normal wants. No criminal penalties for adult use of marijuana. The only way to do it is to get more of those legislators to sign on as co-authors next session. And the only way that that's going to happen is if you keep the pressure up on the legislators. You have to stay in touch with your legislators. If you don't, they're going to forget about you and they're going to move on to the next thing. So like I said, dozens and dozens bipartisan legislators signed on to these bills in this session is nothing to be disappointed about. We should all be extremely excited about it because it's never been done before, ever. Never. So, if you're not a member of Texas Normal already, please make sure to become a member, become a sustaining donor, do something to help the cause, get involved on the grassroots level, and for God's sake, get in touch with your elected state representatives, if you haven't already, and let them know that in next session, you want them to be a co-author of the medical marijuana bill or the decriminalization bill. Because without them signing on as a co-author in support of these bills, they are not going to make it to the floor for a vote. And I know it didn't make it this year because of some shenanigans that happened, but the sad thing is in Texas, the shenanigans only happen once every other year. So that means we have to work that much harder. I want to thank Jamie. I want to thank Jax. I want to thank everybody on the Texas Normal board, Dave, Scott, all these people. They've all stepped up. And again, I can't say enough about how much it means to me, how much it means to the state of Texas, how much it means to patients who need this medicine. It's invaluable. And I hope that everybody that's here will stay involved, get involved in the next legislative session, and please press for this to happen because the way that this session went, it looks like next session we'll have something on the House floor for a vote, and hopefully we'll get something into the Senate. And if we can get something voted through the House floor into the Senate, the likelihood that it's going to make it to the governor's desk is very good. The only thing the governor can do is sign it, veto it, or let it pass. But, you know, elections happen, folks. And as long as you stay involved, things will change. I promise, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Josh, for coming back, and thank you for all the hard work you did. He actually left something out. There certainly was an accomplishment when he was executive director. In 2007, of course, we managed to pass cite and release, which meant that cops weren't forced to immediately arrest you. and it's an issue of baby steps. Right now, we look back on that and think, good grief, we're so close to accomplishing so much more than that. I do want to just remind folks again, if you haven't signed up for the Magic Flight, we're going to do the drawing for it right after this. So any of you guys upstairs that don't know about it, or if you guys up front could tell the people in back, make sure that they sign up for the drawing. We're going to do it after my next speaker. So attorney-client privilege is extremely important in my business. And I just want to start off by saying that I have 100% gotten permission to ignore attorney-client privilege on what I'm about to talk to you about. And the reason that you'll know that I'm not making that up is because the former client is going to be up here talking to you about it. Steve Dahl has been coming to our meetings for quite some time. He's wearing a Texas Normal shirt down there. He's going to come up and talk to us. And I'm going to read you some things from a probable cause affidavit that was filed last year, December 13th, 2016. I, Officer so-and-so, was dispatched to an accident. The suspect, Stephen Dahl, was operating a car of this description. These witnesses told me some things that he was driving the car. I'm blurring over some things, not just because they're boring, really, that were not related to the accident. And another officer came over, the first officer to arrive, and one of the witnesses told the officers that they observed Steve exit his vehicle and walk over to a trash can as he was speaking on his cell phone and discreetly dropped a small manila envelope into the trash can. The officer stated to talk to someone else that saw that, and so he went over to the trash can, observed a glass tube with burn residue and a small manila envelope as described, sitting on top of the trash inside, took custody of the envelope, blah, 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 believed the yellow substance was hash oil, a controlled substance, blah, 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 CBD. Dahl was detained, handcuffed, frisked for safety, because who's more dangerous than someone with THC, and placed in the back of a police unit. And eventually the lab reports come back. And for those of you that don't know, that want a little legal education here, so there is marijuana as far as the Texas Penal Code is concerned, and there is THC other than marijuana. Up to 4 ounces of marijuana is still a misdemeanor. Any amount of THC other than marijuana starts at a state jail felony level. Happy to say that in Steve's case, his stayed at the state jail level. I say that not because I think it's great that he was facing up to 2 years and up to a $10,000 fine and being a convicted felon for the rest of his life, and having the possibility removed from him that he could vote for great candidates like some of the folks we've seen tonight. I say that because it only takes a little bit more than a gram to get to 2 to 10 years, a little bit more than 4 grams to get to 2 to 20 years, and all of these sorts of things. The reason we're talking about this at all is because his case is no longer pending. Honestly, representing Steve was not a difficult task because, and this is part of the theme of tonight, you'll remember that I told you that cops and prosecutors and judges no longer necessarily believe in these sorts of things. We very quickly worked out something called a misdemeanor back time deal in his case. Not to bore you too much, but there is something called a 1244 where you're charged with a felony, but you get a misdemeanor punishment, but you still end up a convicted felon. Well, no, this was actually just reducing it into the misdemeanor range. The important thing to think about there is, I just told you, there is no such thing as misdemeanor hash. Possession of a teeny tiny amount of hash is a felony. There's no amount that you can pretend that the client is possessing that makes it a misdemeanor. The prosecutor was willing, I mean, the arrest was back in December. It's July now. Trust me, that's quick for a court case. But one thing he had to do is he had to get this deal, and by misdemeanor back time, it means that we stood in front of the judge. The judge said, okay, we're going to change this to a misdemeanor. Remember that night you did in jail. That's your punishment. You don't have to go on probation. You don't have to take piss tests. You don't have to do community service. You don't have to do more jail. You certainly don't have to do prison or state jail or up to 2 years, day for day, no parole. So the punishment that he'd already gotten was what he got. But he had to take a don't smoke dope class. And Steve told me something, and I've known Steve coming to these meetings for quite some time now. Steve told me something interesting that some other clients have told me. And he said that when he went to that don't smoke dope class, that they didn't really, I'm going to let, this is what he's going to be talking about actually, but it's not so much that they're telling him that if he smokes marijuana today that he will shoot heroin in the gutter tomorrow. Even the people that teach the classes that get you out of trouble know that it's all bogus. I mean, really, what do we want to take people off of marijuana and put them on opioids? At any rate, I'm not going to waste any more time. The reason he's here is to tell you a little bit about either his experience in the criminal justice system and or at least how that class went, because I thought what he had to say was interesting, and some of y'all would enjoy hearing it. Please welcome to the stage, not a convicted felon, Steve Dahl.
Thank you, Jamie. Well, as he said, I got into a car wreck. I ran through a yellow light. Young lady turned in front of me. I hit her. Car wouldn't go anymore. As soon as I got into the wreck, my Texas Normal brain shut off. I took the hash oil and the little dab pen, threw it away in the trash. And as we just heard, a good Samaritan decided to just hang around, wait for the police to come, and let him know that I threw away something. Well, they got my car off to the side of the road. They had her on the other side, talking to me. I've got a cigarette lit, and the police officer said, "Would you put the cigarette out?" I was like, that's never good. So I put the cigarette out, and he tells me to put my hands behind my back, and I was like, do I have a warrant out? He goes, we'll talk about this in just a minute. Gets me into the back of his car. The other officer comes back with the hash oil and the little dab pen, puts it on the hood of the car, and I look, and I said, oh, shit. He goes, what is that? So that's hash oil. Again, normal brain turned off. Long story short, he asked me where I'm working. I tell him, well, I just got a job. I'm selling something that's more harmful than what I'm using. I started working at a liquor store. The cop goes, I believe the same thing. I've got somebody who's suffering from cancer and he uses this themselves. Unfortunately, it's still legal, and unfortunately, we still have to take you in. I get the charge, and it's a felony. So I'm wondering, what do I do? Who do I know? Of course, call Jamie. So I'm waiting months on end, don't hear anything, get a little letter in the mail, said your court date's here. I said, ah, crap. So I show up at court, and Jamie comes up and he says, I think we got something that you might be able to work with. No probation, no jail time, no felony, an 8-hour marijuana class, you're done. I said, let's do it. So I went to the 8-hour marijuana class, which turned out to be over 3 days. Supposedly 2 hours the first day, 3 hours the second, 3 hours the third. It was 2 hours the first day, 2 hours the second day, about an hour and a half the third. The first thing that the teacher said when we sat down, he goes, I'm not here to change anybody's view. We're all adults here. He goes, the only thing I'm here for is to give you more information to make an informed decision. I was expecting reefer madness. Don't do drugs. You're going to be you're going to be doing coke. You're going to be doing blow. You're going to be doing heroin. It was not that at all. They did a little questionnaire. Is this true? Is this false? Is this do we don't know? And it was honest information. I thought that I was going to be sitting there having to sit on my hands because I'm a member of Normal and know a little bit. It wasn't that way. The teacher actually let me write the website for Texas Normal on the board. He said, if anybody here is wanting to change the laws that you're here for, contact these people. The gentleman was a retired teacher. He even showed the video that a lot of us, I'm sure, have seen that shows somebody who smokes every couple of times a year somebody who smokes on the weekends, and a card-carrying medical member, and they do a driving test with a police officer. They showed that video, and they showed that even the person who's smoking just once or twice a year after a little joint, cop said, nope, wouldn't arrest him, wouldn't do it. Wasn't until each one of them had smoked well over a gram of weed that it's like, yeah, even the medical marijuana user, she doesn't need to be driving. So we are a lot closer than we think. The police telling me that they believe that the marijuana is safer than the alcohol that I sell. The teacher telling us that he's not there to give us, try to change our minds. We're a lot closer than we think, people. We're right around the corner. Keep up the hard work.
Thank you so much, Steve. I hope that was interesting. It was really interesting to me because I've been doing this work for 20 years, and I have seen not just the societal change, but the people in the system. It's gotten to the point where the emperor truly has no clothes, and everybody knows that this is a bad law and that we have to change it. And I just appreciate hearing that perspective. Thank you, Steve. All right. All right. So should we do the drawing for the Magic Flight? Here is Les, and he's going to... Oh, Mike, are you going to stick your hand in?
I hope I win.
Eric Newberger. Are we upstairs?
Where are you?
Come on down.
He's on the way.
All right, if you'll head over to the merch table. Woohoo! Oh, Les has it. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. All right, happy to be able to do that. Also, Dax Britton is going to talk to us about a promotional event for a nonprofit. If you'll come on up, Dax.
Howdy, everybody. Hi. You may know me, you may not. I've been coming here for a while. You can thank Preston for bringing me here. I guess I'll take this thing, guy. Yeah, you're all stuck with me now. So some of you guys may know I do all things fitness. I run Jekyll to Hyde Strength, which is my personal training, strength conditioning, all that kind of stuff, but mainly mixed martial arts, and quite a few years of it now. July 29th up north near Parmer, up at Big Tex Gym. You may or may not have heard of it. We will be holding a event for Boss Fight Team. Boss Fight Team is a, think of it like a hard luck savior program using MMA. If you've ever heard of any story of anyone who may have come boxing or martial arts saving their life, that is pretty much how the owner and starter of Boss Fight Team got that all going. So we're having an event July 29th. They'll be starting at 7 o'clock. They're going to be MMA smoker fights, which is just open sparring where we're going to open the gym up. Anyone in the Austin area and the surrounding area will be coming in, participating, putting on some headgear, kicking the crap out of each other and enjoying some food and some drink. The tickets are going to be $15. $10 of those dollars will go directly to the Boss Fight Team and to helping anyone out. Anyone that comes to the gym that wants to get involved in MMA, maybe change their life, maybe do some good. We give them gear. They get to train for free. Absolutely, all of it goes right back into the program. The other $5 is going to go to the gym and the beer and putting on the event for the night. If you're interested in going, seeing the fights, fighting in the fights, we're still matching people up. We're going to have anywhere between 10 fighters or 24, so 5 to 12 fights, depending on how many people we get matched up. Anywhere from weights all the way down to 120, all the way up to 290 pounds, because we got some big guys coming in. So if you want to go, you can get in contact with me. You can come by Big Tex Gym and buy the tickets there. There's Facebook promotions as well if you're a social media kind of person. It's entirely up to you. There'll be food and drink as well. I don't know if Mikey's here, but Mikey's food truck will be around. I don't think he's in the building. Yeah, any information that you want, let me know. If you are a local business and you want to be a vendor, we're taking vendors as well. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Yes, Big Tech Gym is on Metric and Palmer. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Dex.
Yeah, man.
Okay, folks, that is our show for tonight. But I also want to give a shout out to Angela and Flamingo Cantina for hosting us so many years, and I do mean that. It's been so many years, and I mean the thank you part.